Hey,
Welcome to Pursuing Spiritual Awakening. My name's Brenda,
and I'm Ryan,
and we are also Paranormal Triage.
and this is the podcast.
Yeah, this is the podcast. Anyway, so we started doing our investigating about 2 years ago, and now we've decided to do this podcast to kind of educate people about the ins and outs of the paranormal and other activities that kind of surround the paranormal.
And kind of taking us on, our tagline is Pursuing the Spiritual Awakening. It's our journey of pursuing our spiritual awakening as well, in the midst of all of the investigations and people we meet along the way and all the exciting stuff we're learning on that aspect.
Yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting journey, just coming from, for me, I'm an empath, and that's been kind of an interesting journey just because biblically it kind of bothered me a little bit, wondering if I was doing the right things, doing the wrong things. So this kind of gave us an opportunity to open that door for conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not an empath, so I have to figure out how to not only work with the investigations and how to key up on kind of getting the signs that she's experiencing certain things, but kind of how to work with it and understand it too.
Yeah, and then through investigations, people use a lot of tools. Not only do we use equipment, but other people have been known to use, mediums, psychics, tarot cards, Ouija boards, some of the stuff that we don't get involved in, but doesn't mean that we wouldn't. We're just kind of undereducated about some of those tools.
Yeah, I mean, we're not practitioners of any of that stuff. We're purely investigators on our journey to find our spiritual kind of awakening. So when we encounter the people that are professionals and do these things, and it's cool to see them work and understand what they do. And we're still trying to understand more of how that plays into the whole aspect of paranormal, because on this channel and what we do, it's not just ghost spiritual type stuff we do, right? Because the word paranormal, what does that mean? Normal. We all know the word normal means normal.
Whatever that means.
But the word para comes from a root word. I think it's Greek. Para means to be alongside or next to. And obviously we come from the first responder world, so everyone's used to the word paramedic. People think it means to or pair of, but it's not. It just means next to, right? So paranormal means just to the side of normal. So on our podcast, we want to pursue and experience everything that's just a little bit outside of normal, because really it is kind of normal, but we're just kind of opening everyone's eyes to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just being in the EMS world, it just gives us a different perspective on some of these things. So, but today we're going to touch on tarot cards, which kind of has had me interested in a long time, but also not really wanting to get into it because I really don't understand the whole thing of it. I like astrology. Who doesn't like to go and look up their birth month astrology?
Yeah, their signs and what does it mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mine always seems to be on point, but then on a biblical standpoint, there again, depending on your intention when doing these things, I think is where there's that difference between whether it's right or wrong or unbiblical or biblical or however you want to label it. So we have met a lady named Sandy. She's really cool, and she seems to be really versed in this subject. You can also find her on Instagram. Scary Siren is her Instagram handle. So we are going to play a little intro for her, and then we'll bring her on. All right. Hey, Sandy, welcome to the
Hey,
show.
welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. Oh my God, I got tingles like just looking at that intro.
So, how are you
So
doing
cool. Thank
today?
you so much. I
Oh, no
appreciate
problem.
that.
We
So,
are super excited that you're here.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I think this is like one of my first like podcasts to be on, so I'm just like super excited. And I mean, this year is going to be, probably pretty crazy. So I mean, it's a great time to talk about tarot and what it would bring to the table.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we've watched a few of your card readings on Instagram, and they're super interesting. So I guess to start all this is like, why don't you tell the audience who you are, how you got into tarot, and how long you've been doing it?
Sure. Well, my name is Sandy. So I've been into tarot for about 7 to 8 years. So it was an interesting start because I was um, I was at a moment in my life where I was really lost. I didn't really know where to go. I was in really bad um, friendships, relationships. It was just like a number of things that were just kind of just hitting me all at once, and um, and I really one of the things I really um, was a setback for me is that I never trusted my own intuition.
Hmm.
I was always like, oh well, you know what, you probably know better. We'll go with what you say. I
Yeah,
was like a yes ma'am,
yeah,
for lack of a better term. It was, and then I was just always trying to be cool with everybody, and like I think when I was cool with everybody, kind, a lot of people would take advantage of that. They saw it as weakness, and I was like, no, I just kind of want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. So that was kind of my, that was me 10 years ago.
yeah.
Not that it's changed so much. I do like to be kind. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm a wee bit more careful. you
Yeah,
know
I,
um
yeah, I think
but
we all go through those things in our lives in those little roller coaster where do we fit in and how do we be confident? And I think especially nowadays it seems like that confidence in the world, especially in young people, has kind of disappeared a little bit. So it's harder to find your place in the
yeah.
world.
Oh yeah, it's definitely I was one of those people where I figured that I was going to be in that 9 to 5 job, and then that was it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, okay,
Hmm.
so I was trying when I wasn't happy at the place I was working, I was like, okay, so you know what, maybe I'll just get a job somewhere else doing the same thing but somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working out. I was like, well, that's weird. Like, I can pass the test, I can do this, so why isn't it working out? So during that time, I was really into tarot. Like I would look at it, see other people do it, and I was like, that's interesting, I wonder if I can do it. So I kind of just started getting into it myself, and I would look at astrologers. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. But I would never really do it myself until like one day where I was just like, you know what, let me kind of dabble in it. I was really starting to find myself and kind of let go of things and people that no longer served me. And I didn't like, it was just a really big shock to my system. Like, I didn't know why I was doing that. Like, it wasn't me. I
Right.
would hold on to relationships whether they were good for me or not. I was just didn't want to disappoint people. I guess maybe that
Yeah.
was my
Yeah.
issue. So I was like, okay, so I was finally doing a lot of that, letting go. And then I somehow just jumped into tarot. I was like, well, it's kind of cool. Like, I've been looking at it for so long. Let me try to do it myself. So I was kind of looking at stuff and kind of learning the cards, and it just suddenly snowballed into something that was just really like, oh, I wonder if I could do this for myself.
Right.
Okay.
So
Oh, what?
do you have to have an empathic or a psychic ability to be able to read tarot cards? Are you any of those? Are you sensitive or
I did not think I was a sensitive or anything like that in the beginning, because
okay.
I think we are conditioned to believe that we're not, we're that we're just like, okay, we're here, we're working, we're doing this, and then that's it. That is not the case. Like,
Yeah.
even when you don't think that you're an empath, you are an empath. You are
Right, right.
sensitive. We're all that. The thing is,
Yeah.
we're trained not to exercise that muscle.
Right, yeah.
Hmm.
It's basically meant to like kind of go away so that you can kind of do a lot of the jobs that are like out there. Like, you do this job, not that doing a job is a bad thing. Like, if you're called towards something, helping people, that's totally great. But it's like to kind of forget that you're an empath and a sensitive, that's the problem. Like, we need to also include those in whatever we do.
Yeah,
So
I think we're a little conditioned to do the same thing at the same time every day, and that's all you're supposed to do, and don't think outside the
Hmm.
box.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so I was just kind of, I think in this point where I was just very conditioned to do this and do that. And so when I started getting into the tarot cards, that's where I actually started tapping into my intuitive side, into my my sensitive side. Because
Right.
the thing with tarot, when you do tarot, you're psychic.
Hmm.
That's it. You are
Right.
psychic when you do that, because there's a difference. There's psychic mediums, which are mediums are more like, oh, I see, your uncle standing there right next to you, he's wearing, that's more of that mediumship. So all tarot readers could be psychics, not all tarots could be mediums. So
Right.
that's kind of something that I found out, where I was like, wow, like just the whole idea when somebody said, you know what, yeah, if you do tarot, you're psychic. If you
Right.
can actually read the cards and get messages from the other side, you are psychic. And
Yes.
it just blew my mind. And when I
So
heard that, I was like, oh my God.
yes, I mean that kind of brings up a point. So you started to kind of dabble into it a little bit and learn it.
Mhm.
Did you go like head first in the deep end where you're like, I'm going to learn the history of it and figure out where it came from and all that, or did you just kind of like start figuring out what the symbols mean and then figured out that you could read it that way?
Yeah. So really, at the point that I was at in my life, mentioning that I was, very kind of down in the dumps and really didn't know who I was, I think I was meant to find myself first.
Hmm.
Right.
And then kind of go into the more historical side of it, because actually the tarot that I do is actually more based in Italy, but there's tarot,
Okay.
there's different kind of divination all over the world,
Yeah,
you know.
I was reading that today about Italy, but then France popped up as well, and it sounds like tarot cards came out of playing card games. Just
Yeah, yeah, it came out of play, like usually you usually use the regular standard tarot, I'm sorry, the playing cards. Like a
mhm.
Hmm.
lot of them are the same ideas. So you have like the hearts, which are cups, you have the diamonds, which are pentacles, so it's just maybe
Hmm.
there's just certain things that, like the arcana, the major arcanas, that are maybe not there, but it's pretty much the same idea. You have the minor arcana and the major arcana. You can like have different cards and get similar messages,
So
you know.
could you play fish with these cards?
Oh yeah, yeah, like, yeah, like, you know what, yeah, there's it's funny because, like, for instance, like we have a card like the Hermit. The Hermit is a card that's kind of like going within, reflecting, kind of doing that internal work. And another card like that would be like the Four of Swords. Four of Swords is all about kind of resting, relaxing, and taking the time out for yourself. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's
Yeah.
them, I would say. You could probably say go fish.
Yeah. So did you learn any skills from anybody else? Did anybody else in your family do this, or is this strictly something you got into for just yourself?
This is something that I kind of got into myself. A lot of my family members are a little bit more on the, I would like, a lot of them are sensitive. They just don't want to believe that they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think they reject a lot of that stuff. So
Right.
they are very, I know they are sensitive, and I know they see things. They just don't want to really acknowledge that it's a regular thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I have some family members that won't even watch our YouTube show because,
yeah,
we're dabbling in the dark side.
yeah. Oh my
So,
goodness. You could imagine the surprise on my mom's face when she said, when she heard that I was doing tarot, she's like, wait, what?
yeah. So
It's like,
I guess we could touch on the point that I did want to ask you. So on a biblical side, because I don't want this to get too, I don't want to delve into the Bible too much, but when people are like myself are kind of struggling, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? And then you go look up a bunch of scriptures and, like, in different parts of it, it says tarot is bad because I don't know that big fancy word, deviate.
Hmm.
It makes you stray away from
yeah, it
God and look,
deviate from God.
yeah, you
Yes.
look to somebody else for answers that you should be asking God. But in a way, I don't really think it's any different than going to a church and listening to a
Right,
pastor,
right, right.
you know.
I've kind of got to this point in the last, reading this stuff, especially this morning, kind of doing some last minute research, that I came to the conclusion. I grew up Catholic, very
Hmm.
like strict Catholic household, right? And you know, we would pray to obviously God and Jesus, but we would also pray to like patron saints. We'd pray to
Hmm.
angels, and then reading this research, I got to the point. It's like I almost think that if God is like one within the universe and the all creator of everything, maybe some of these people that are interpreting like tarot readers and stuff are actually kind of like messengers How do we know that the messages that you're producing for people based on your training and your abilities aren't actually from God? If it's all connected in one,
Mhm.
it kind of brings up that point that I was thinking.
Right, right. Yeah. So when tarot readers work, anybody who's doing any kind of divination, we tend to pull from source, from the universe, from it could be, some people will say even God. It really depends on the way you want to see what that source, what you want to label that source. So we're all connecting to a place where we have our ancestors, where we have our spirit guides, where we have all these ethereal beings that are trying to give us messages. And like I said before, a lot of us are closed off, so
Mhm.
a lot of people don't hear those messages themselves. So it's kind of up to us to be like, well, this person says this person this, or this these cards kind of indicate that you're doing more of this or doing that, and you should kind of stop hurting yourself in that way. So we tap into this ethereal place where it's all about like kind of love and support of the family, all the people who've passed,
Mhm.
and all the people that will be one day. So it's tapping from that's helpful source. So whenever whenever religions say, oh, tarot, it's not great because like she was saying, it's almost like it's going away from God, but it's
Right.
actually in that same area as God.
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
yeah, so it's all about really kind of how you look at it. Yeah, we as a Catholic, I grew up Catholic as well, and us going to the saints, us going to Mary, those are
Mhm.
all those are people that we ask, oh, please, can you help me and put in a good word for me for God. So that
Yeah.
so it's kind of like that, like, okay, so okay, well, can you tell me what God is trying to tell me, or can you tell me what source is trying to tell me? Okay, well, let's see what the cards say. It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
Okay.
They're
Right.
coming from the same spot. It's coming from the same part of love and support for you. So when people think that, oh, well, it's almost like it's trying to like bottleneck the whole thing for you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you got to go through God. That's it. Like,
Hmm.
but, I mean, I'm sure God would be busy, right? So you kind of have to have other, sources where you can go. Your ancestors are more than happy to help you.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, when you have
absolutely.
grandmothers and grandfathers come through and you're like, I saw them, I know it was my grandparents. Isn't that a comforting feeling to know that they're helping you too? They're kind of
Yeah.
on your side too. So it's like,
Absolutely.
why would we take that away from from ourselves?
Right. Right.
When we know that we
Mhm.
can connect with family wherever we are, whenever we are, whatever time we are, whether living or not, it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
So
So,
like, yeah.
because everything can be perverted and used for different things.
Hmm.
Can tarot cards be used for bad things? Just as like I was Jehovah's Witness, so we didn't do anything. We were very boring. So I have to
Hmm.
learn a lot about like the Star of David and symbols and things of that nature. And obviously, people have taken that star and turned it into pentagrams. From how I understand it,
Hmm.
can you
Hmm.
do the same thing with tarot cards and do negative stuff with it? I'm sure you can, but what does that look like?
Yeah, and it's all about intention. So when people talk about, you have white magic, black magic, and I don't like to use those terms.
Hmm.
I like to use intention. So
Right.
whenever you have intention towards, like if I'm angry doing the tarot, it's going to affect it. If I'm, sad, then it might affect it too. So, all these kind of factors go into what you're pulling. So you have to make sure you're kind of in a, clear frame of mind before you do it, or else you're going to influence it in some kind of weird way. If you're wanting to hurt people and, do all kinds of things to people, then hey, you know what, you might be pulling from a source that's like, well, you know what, I'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. you know
Mhm.
and same could be done with like dowsing rods. Any kind of spirit that's around you could be, it's like almost like a hotline. You kind of like,
Right.
hey, is
Right.
anybody there? Like, yeah, I'm here. It's like, do you think I'm going to end up with X, Y, and Z? Like, oh, sure, why not? So it really depends, like on certain things. Yeah, you may have to kind of be careful, like, who you're tapping into based on the intentions that you're setting. But for the most part, like if it's somebody who's like trying to help you, trying to get you to the best version of yourself, usually it's coming from that good source that's like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna tell you how it is,
Yeah.
whether
So
it's good, whether it's bad. Yeah.
yeah. So you're not really predicting the future with tarot cards. You're just trying to heal people, I guess,
Mhm.
for lack of better words. I mean,
Yeah.
Is it more of like an interpretation what the message is? So when you talk about like the intention, right?
Mhm.
Is it? I know that's the intention of like the practitioner, but also does it have to do with the intention of the person that is requesting the reading?
Yes, that's actually a big factor because sometimes when they're very chaotic, that reading's going to be very chaotic too. Like I've had instances where I've read for people and I'm like, it's so hard to nail down what you're trying to, do here because in the back of your head, you're or just in your brain, it's just you're just all over the place. Like you don't know what to do. And the cards are kind of reflecting that, that message too.
Hmm.
I've had people where people are dying of cancer. People are, on the verge of wanting to commit suicide. And I'm reading their cards and, I'm kind of absorbing some of that energy too. And it's like, wow, like I have to like we either have to stop or I have to like try to get to the point quickly, So it does affect it. The person that you're reading does affect it and you are taking on some of that energy too, and I try to help as best I could, but sometimes I've had to have people, what, you need to go over there or you need to, because it's a lot. I've had people with very intense energies next to me and I'm like, you know what, can you move over there a little bit? Like for the most part I can read person, like
yeah.
even with the
Yeah.
significant other there or somebody there, but sometimes when somebody's going through really hard times I'm like, you know what, I can't have you here, like you're really gonna crowd this person's energy. So it just, that's why sometimes they like
Huh.
one-on-one, and it's not great to do like group
Right.
tarot readings, because you never know, which energy's
Who
there,
you're
but
picking from. Yeah.
yeah, but
So
yeah.
are your cards, so like as in dowsing rods, I've been told that I don't use them, but I've been told that once those dowsing rods are kind of adjusted to you or blessed for you, are tarot cards the same way? Can you just let anybody use your specific set of tarot cards?
Yeah, I mean, they're literally cards with pictures on them.
Hmm.
And people can get their energies in them. It really depends on how the person or the person who's reading it is. Sometimes they'll have their decks and they'll do a reading and they'll put maybe like a crystal quartz on there to absorb any kind of bad energy, or some people kind of see it like a seasoned like a seasoned pan where you get all that energy in there and it's just going to marinate and it's going to know all those energies, so it knows where exactly to pull from, where it needs
Huh.
to tell that message. And I'm kind of a believer of that. It has experience, it has those memories, it knows where to pull from when somebody has a very specific message. Maybe somebody else down the line will have that same message and they're like, okay, you know what, do these, and this is the image that I'm getting in my head, so okay, I'm like, I get it. I think I know exactly what you're, because I've had those instances where I just say something and I'm like, I have no clue what I just said, or I'm like, does it make sense to you? I'm like, they're like, it makes perfect sense. I'm like, oh, okay, well, hey, that's cool.
So
you
if
know,
so if another person who's a practitioner kind of uses your deck for something, does that mess you up or does it kind of contaminate your stuff?
does I mean, not for me. not
Okay.
not really for me. I've loaned the cards to people and they kind of pick it up and I'm like, okay, so I mean, if if I was like, no, if I kind of felt that they had maybe a really intense energy where they're just like, oh, you know what, like, maybe I might put a little crystal on there, be like, okay, or spray it down with some kind of grounding spray. But I mean, for the most part, I'm okay with that. It's not for everybody, but yeah, I see it like kind of one of like those cast iron pans where you're just gonna like, the more energy's there, the better, and it can help me understand what to say to the person across from me.
Is there different kinds of decks for different things, or is it just kind of one universal deck of cards?
So it's interesting because the card started off as the major arcanas. It was really just like justice, lovers, and all this, so it just kind of added from there. The ones that, where you see like the main pictures, like Hermit, World card. Yeah, those are the ones that kind of got started out there first. And then people started adding the minor arcanas, like almost like here, let me see, try to see. So you got like these little cards here. This is a garbage pail kids deck. I thought this would be kind of cool for, because
Yeah.
these are actually, these are very accurate, the pictures. I'll go over them, but like this one, it's the two of coins, and this is one of the minor arcanas. This is kind of teaching you that, hey, balance. Sometimes you're doing too much, you know um and sometimes you do need those kind of like clarifying cards. So I think that's kind of why they were put there. Like people just thought maybe this needs a little bit more clarification when you're pulling the cards, and like, are you really kind of in that energy? The major arcanas. Are you kind of in that the pull of that energy? Minor arcanas, you know. So yeah, it's actually really cool. Like, I mean, some people will do oracle decks too. Oracle decks are kind of just like those straight messages, like, you know, find a new lover, you know, like, okay, well, there you go, you know. But these, like, I like these a little bit more because you have to basically like translate what they're trying to say, and it's actually more fun for me, and it helps me kind of use my brain power to and my heart and my tapping into source to figure out what these are saying. Like for me, these are more exciting. That's why I think I tend to do more tarot cards than oracle cards, but I like oracle cards too, because sometimes they're just like straight to the point, and then, you know, your interpretation of them.
So
I've seen some pretty scary looking tarot cards. Is that a different type of tarot card reading, or is it just a style of art? Because you know, if most people really generally get kind of like, will have a stigma against it because they've seen the card with the devil on it and he looks all creepy and scary.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and a lot of the tarot cards, they all have the devil or the devil in some form. And it's really just based off of the creator's artwork. You know, like sometimes you know, the devil will be maybe just like a pentagram with like the devil head, or sometimes they have the devil with two chains, or two people chained up to them. So like, it really depends on the person that's creating it. I personally like the ones that are chained up, not because I'm like a, you know, S&M or anything, but it's just because I actually, that's a very powerful message. Whenever you're telling people like, okay, so the devil, you always see the devil as some kind of very negative energy. But for me, for my way of explaining it to people, I tend to see it more as like a warning or a crossroads, where, you know what, it's like, just be like devil, it's more like devil energy. It's like the devil doesn't want necessarily to keep you there. It wants to help you. It wants to help you understand that you are at a crossroads, or you are feeling bogged down or attached to something toxic, and you can walk away. They're like, he's like, you don't have to be here with me. I mean, but you can actually take off these chains and move away from this.
Why don't you kind of go through and explain to us the process and how you start? Do you do anything to prepare yourself? Do you meditate? Do you do anything to get ready to do a reading?
Yes. So it's a very short one. Like, I get very lazy. I'm a Taurus. So the smallest amount of preparation, the better for me, because then I won't do it. So it's a lot of it is just kind of like mental preparation, a little bit of meditation, but I'm kind of like walking meditation, if that makes any sense, where I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, but also, okay, like spirit, please give me the ability to deliver the messages that I need to deliver to these people at this time. And then I'm just kind of walking around repeating that to myself. And I do have a couple of sprays and ways I prepare myself that way. So that's kind of like right before I'm going to go out and do it. But in the meantime, I'm just kind of right there preparing, like spirit, people need to hear these messages and they need help. So please allow me the ability to understand the messages that you're trying to give them and to relay that message. So I kind of do that kind of right before I'm going out. So like I can be getting ready and just kind of like, okay, spirit, let's do this, almost like getting ready to go into battle.
Right.
It's like a weird thing where, like, I don't know if it's like the ADD in me, just like, I have to be doing a couple things at once. So I'm like, okay, well, you know what, let's go and do this. And I like, let's okay, let's do the spirit. I'm ready. Let's go. So almost like a warrior. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to like really put myself up there, but like, it's kind of like one of those things where you just kind of get yourself hyped up for like some kind of boxing event. And we're going to go ahead and see what we're going to, put out there for you.
Yeah. So I know in one of the pictures you sent me, is that your horns that you wear? What does that represent for you?
So, I mean, it all really boils down to that just being really cool.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot of witch markets, and I will be there doing tarot. And that one, it was basically, I saw it and it was just calling to me, and I'm like, you know what, I need it. It's really beautiful, and it's actually real horns. So
Yeah.
it's all, you know, and there's like real skeletons on them. Like, I don't, you can't really see it in that picture, I don't think, but there's like real bat skeletons in there. So I just thought it was beautiful. And also, I mean, what usually that means, you know, you're kind of connecting with spirit, you're connecting with the earth through like horns like that, because it's almost like you're getting into that primal, you know, mindset where you're gonna connect with the earth, receiving those messages. You know, if you're doing spell work, you're gonna receive those messages and or put your spell into the earth, so that you're creating whatever that spell is. You're putting you're getting those messages that you need to. So
Right.
I feel like it's kind of, it takes you into that kind of primal energy where
Yeah,
you're not so much
we have
like your
we
9 to
have
5
scary
human.
ghosts.
Yeah, it's like you're not so much that human anymore. You're like one with the earth. So you kind of
Right.
get in that frame of mind, like kind of like warrior, kind of, I'm ready to go into this
Right.
and receive the messages or do the spell to, you know, like for instance, here in Southern California, we did do a ritual for rain. So we were, you know, had it like, you know, I didn't have the horns at that time, unfortunately, but like, because it was rain, because it was I wasn't prepared for it, but like I just imagine myself, you know, with horns like that, and just really ready to, you know, to get that energy, to get that that rain to come to Southern California, so we can go and stop all these, like, you know, fires. So
Right. Right.
and
Yeah.
luckily we did have some rain, you know, not much, but it was something. So
So is that any of that, like kind of that belief intertwined with like the summer solstice and the winter solstice, and as
yeah,
far
you
as
know,
like reading, could just have to do farming and rain and new crops and old crops?
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to some of the, you know, religious stuff before Christianity kind of became like the basis of things, you know, more of like a pagan type
mhm,
lifestyle where it was very, and also how like native it is.
Okay.
Like people relied on the earth and they were like kind of one with the earth and the weather and those kind of spiritual things. So, I mean, how much of the energy of tarot is kind of can be traced back to some of that kind of lineage.
oh wow, I'm pretty sure, you know, I don't know exactly when they came into play, but I'm pretty sure like each people have basically their own versions of divination.
Mhm.
Like for my ancestry, I'm from Mexican ancestry, so I think it's probably a little bit more similar to like throwing bones or throwing you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
images, charms, so that it's more like, okay, so what is spirit trying to say? Let's throw these and we'll see if it lands in a certain area, upside down, right? So, you know, it's going to tell you a certain message. So like, for instance, if it's a, you know, or maybe like in voodoo, we have throwing bones, you have a chicken foot. So if it lands foot up, you know, palm up, that means you're open to something. If it lands face down, or, you know, palm down, that means that you're closed off to something.
Wow, that's super
Hmm.
interesting.
That's
Yeah,
very
you know,
interesting.
so it's like, it really, you know, and yeah, it just really kind of depends on what you have available to you in that in that region, in that area. You know, for instance, like when you do spell work, if it calls for Himalayan salt, if you're in Mexico, you don't have Himalayan salt, it's just regular salt or whatever the equivalent is, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
basically using whatever things you have in that area. And a lot of it's like meditation, a lot of incense in Mexico, and that's how we pray to a lot of the gods for corn, for rain, for all these other you know, elements that we need so that we can grow crops, so that we can flourish as people, you know. So it's like I think with them it was more like it was meditation and charms, if anything, if there was
Right.
anything like solid that they used. But a lot of it was connecting to our ancestors too. We never really said goodbye to our ancestors. We
Right.
Mhm.
always had them in our lives, you know. And then we have Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead, as
Mhm.
they know, is when the veil is the thinnest, so that we can, you know, basically talk to them almost like shaking their hand. But I mean, they're
Mhm.
really accessible to us every day, all day. So it's you know, it's kind of a shame that, you know, we don't practice a lot of that in a lot of cultures. We kind of, you know, especially like in the American culture, we kind of, you know, it's almost like we try to weed out our ancestors. Like it's like whoever's here, that's it. You know, like we, you know, if we were to kind of get that mentality back into America, you know, like, you know, and it doesn't matter what, you can be Mexican, you can be African American, you can anybody, just, you know, working with the ancestors. Like I think that that's what they want, that they want to work with us, they want to show that they're there, you know, like, hey, family. But you know, and that's like another form of divination, like, hey, family, help me, the saints help me.
It is
Mhm.
kind of disappointing how, I mean, that we're not grown up or we don't grow up or, yeah, we have forgotten it. A lot of this isn't because we saw it on Nightmare on Elm Street or some weird demonic movie that set this stuff is very cultural. And, then again, people want to use it and twist it and make it into something very negative and bad. And, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a whole other like
Yeah.
conversation when people try to put their agenda into something, but like, no, don't do that. Follow this only. It's like, it's like we're all starting to learn that now how it could be bad, but like, yeah, it's a shame. It's definitely a shame, and I would actually hope that whatever is going on right now kind of helps us connect to a lot of the ancestors, connect to a lot of the other side, because I feel like that's kind of what's happening right now. We have a very kind of almost like spiritual warfare going on, where where it's like we're trying to be grounded individuals, we're trying to grow with our families, we're trying to be spiritual people, and there's others that don't want that.
Yeah.
There's others
our stuff started, 7 years ago when, my oldest daughter became sick, and just going through all that and now coming to where we're at now, that's kind of what started the spiritual awakening for us. So, yeah, hopefully the stuff that we bring forward will kind of help push some of that ideology out.
Absolutely.
And bring some more open-mindedness in. So, and we're not asking anybody to go out and do weird things and, scare your neighbors and stuff like that. It's just more about getting right by your God, getting right by your culture, your ancestors, things of that nature. So,
and being open-minded that there's so much stuff out there in this world, and to experience and see that people don't understand. And I was very excited about learning about tarot and talking to you. Know how you prepare. Does this take a lot of your energy away? Like, are you just like tired and done after readings?
So funny stories. When I first started doing this, I would tap into my own energy, and that's when I would just be gone. I was at a friend's function party, and I did tarot for everybody for free, because like I was barely learning. So I'm like, well, whatever, it's free. If I get it wrong, then you know what, it was free. But like, so I was like doing that. And then what I didn't realize is that I was tapping into my own energy. And my friends are very intense people. So I was like, oh my God, like I was just drained. Like I was like, I wanted to go home like, an hour before everybody else. Like I was like, no, like, usually I'm there for like 2-3 in the morning, but I'm like, no, at midnight I was like, can I just go now? But but then it was a learning process. I'm learning how to tap into energy, other energy, the universal energy when you're reading. So it actually, instead of draining your energy, it revitalizes you. So there's times where I feel like more awake after doing tarot than I did before. So it's actually a nice kind of like nice high, if you will.
Right.
And yeah, I just kind of like that feeling when it's kind of like that's where when I'm doing a reading for somebody, then I'm like, you know what, spirit, like if I can get like just a charge and energy and my, because I feel like when I'm reading for somebody, like I get really warm, I get really like fired up inside, like I could feel it, like just talking about tarot right now, like I feel like I'm all like sweaty right now, but because it's like it's something that makes me excited, and it's something that really revitalizes me. And that's why, like saying earlier, it's something that kind of saved my life. Like I was lost before I had it, and then just kind of like being able to prove that I can trust my intuition, do that, it was perfect. And like it just helped me get to a better place. And now I'm 10 years later, I'm a way better person than I was then. So
have you ever been invited to go on a paranormal investigation, or how do people use tarot for that, or do they even do that? I mean, I don't even know if they do that.
I have not done tarot when I go to do paranormal investigations. I have been out on a few, and it's the difference too from 10 years ago doing it, because I've been a paranormal nerd for like my whole life. When I was a kid growing up, one of my favorite shows was Sightings. If you guys remember that show.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, so that was like one of my favorite shows. I always interested in the paranormal, but I never felt sensitive. I never felt like an empath, so I'm just like, so it's just me looking at people say, oh, I feel there's, and I was like, I wonder what that feels like. I didn't allow myself to feel that. Right. So just kind of getting into that point where I was like, finally starting to trust myself and really get into tarot. Now I know that feeling whenever you just kind of have an image pop in your head, or just kind of like, I feel like something's here. Like, I don't know what it is. I feel like something's like swirling around my legs. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But there's just really no process though that you could use tarot cards as a tool,
yeah,
because I feel like that would be kind of it doesn't seem like it would be for that.
The only thing I could think of is maybe if like there was somebody experiencing something specific. So if we had a case where we were going to do an investigation, and we spent a night gathering evidence and then talking to the family about their experiences, would it be worth suggesting to them to have a reading to see if any of the stuff that we captured correlated to anything going on in their life, or maybe might make something make sense more?
Yeah, I think that would actually be a good thing to try, because a lot of people do use tarot whenever they're doing investigations. Sometimes they're just kind of reading the room with those cards. So it's actually it would be a pretty good tool to use, in that, okay, now we're trying to connect with that particular energy. It's kind of like confirmation. Like, maybe we see something there through the SLS camera. We're feeling something, but maybe this will tell us what exactly it's trying to say, because maybe we won't get it on the recorder. Maybe we'll get it through the cards, because sometimes when people are recording right next to each other, one person catches something, the other person doesn't. So it's almost like the same thing. Like, so it's definitely a tool that could be used. I just never used it myself personally,
Right?
but maybe that is something that we need to start using, because I know it gets kind of complicated when you're in a very kind of broken down place, and it's hard to find even some place to put your stuff versus like, and then there's tarot cards. That's why a lot of people tend to use like the machines or the dowsing rods, because they're a little easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I would definitely be down to use my tarot cards in an investigation to kind of see what maybe to kind of validate what a psychic is saying, or a medium, and then see if we're all getting the same responses, basically.
Right.
And can you pinpoint what you're reading? Does it have to be specifically a person? Can it be do people do readings for animals? Do they do readings for just places in general?
For animals, that's an interesting one, because I've never heard of anybody doing a reading like this with cards for an animal, but because I've only heard of mediums connecting with animals, and then they have that message. But if they have if they're like an entity, a little spirit, I'm pretty sure you can, this really connects to like anybody who would want some kind of to get you some kind of message. So I would imagine that you can use tarot cards. Actually, you just gave me a great idea to kind of do that with my doggy that just passed away.
Well, if your phone blows up, it's Ryan's fault.
Yeah.
You asked the question.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a whole nother section of readings, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like that's actually kind of cool. I like that idea. It's like, we got it here now. But
well, so many people are in tune with their animals, and then the question comes to my mind when we do investigation of places and we're getting evidence. We may not know if that evidence is coming through because if it's human in nature, or non-human, demonic in nature, or if it's even pet in nature. Because my sister says that she can sense and feel her dog that was very close to her that passed away. And maybe that's something, messages from those types of animals could be out there. I don't know.
Yeah, oh yeah, I absolutely. There's been instances even in my house where like I see something kind of run by on the floor, like it's something that's notably small, and I'm like, oh, like, was that my dog when she was alive? And I'd look and I'm like, no, she's over there in her bed. But it doesn't feel malicious, like whatever this is, it just looks like maybe something that was on the earth before we got there. So it's just gonna stay running, doing its little laps around the house. I'm like, okay, if it's not doing anything to you,
right,
then it should be fine. Usually almost like with a person, think of entities like people. Like, if you feel like somebody's not right, if they feel kind of off, you're like, same thing with spirits.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you're like, oh, well, this doesn't really feel right with like what's going on in here. So usually if that's what you feel, that's most likely the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, a lot of people like to, and that's like another fear of with religion, tapping into tarot, like, oh, but you're talking to all these like weird spirits. I'm like, well, but just like us, they could have bad intentions out there too. Like if you're like with the dowsing rods,
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
you're trying to answer the questions and it could be something there that's like, hey, let's mess with them. Let's say,
Mhm.
yeah, they're going to get $1 million and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's like us, like, hey, your friends will mess with you. Yeah. A spirit, like if they think that they can mess with you, sure they can.
Yeah.
That's why when you use dowsing rods, you have to be a little bit clear, like, oh, like my guides, my ancestors, you guys can answer these questions, nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, yeah, usually when you have that feeling, I was, point of the story. Yeah. When you have that feeling, most likely if it's something that feels negative, then it probably is negative.
Yeah.
Because there's always low vibrating entities around us. It
Yeah.
happens. There's low vibrating people around us. It
Yeah.
happens. So kind of like those same kind of feelings, you can usually point out like kind of a bad character.
Yeah.
It's usually, the only thing, I know people like to throw the word demonic around a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not, that's not so much demonic. It's just a really bad, bad person, a bad entity. Like they had they did a lot of bad things in life. They're going to do a lot of bad things to you if, in death, whatever,
Right.
they don't, it doesn't care. They don't care. I think if it was like somebody like, like what people say the devil or Satan, I'm like, think of it this way. I think the devil or Satan has way better things to do than
Yeah.
it's like God, way better
They're
things to
busy.
do than like
They're busy doing bigger things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole other like, realm there. But usually, whenever we have bad eggs in there and the other side, yep, bad eggs here, bad eggs on the other side, yep, they all exist.
Yeah, every time we do a new investigation, it seems like I open another door and I'm able to start seeing more of that difference, whether it's bad or evil. We've never been in a situation yet that we can say, oh, that's demonic. Because I think they have better things to do. But we have been in places where it's like, okay, we're leaving.
Yeah.
It's just like there's something here. I can't tell you what it is, but we're out.
Well, you definitely have that energy shift that you can feel where something just doesn't feel right, or I don't want to say the word dark, but I mean that's kind of a broad way of saying it. But yeah, you can tell when there's something that is not happy and not nice, and when there is nice and happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's energy is strong, and wherever you could feel it wherever you are. Here on the other side, yeah, it's just you just got to be a little more careful, at least with the other side, because you just can't see it. Like, oh, okay, it's just mainly like in here what you're feeling, rather than seeing a person. You're like, yeah, they don't look great. We have that visual.
So does
here.
that kind of translate when you pull a card and you have a symbol and that means something, and do you still have to kind of go with your gut to go to give the message from that card and not give too much or too little?
So whenever I give readings, I'm always pretty direct. I try to give them as much information as I can. Maybe even I overdo it. I mean, look at me. I love to talk. You can see it now. So I like to babble on, and I will do that with people until they kind of get the message. And there's some people where they're kind of resisting the message, and I have to kind of keep repeating it. Well, let me tell you. And a lot of them don't want to hear the bad messages. They want to hear all the good messages. It's like, well, that's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I would be doing a disservice to you if I only gave you all the good stuff and not the bad stuff, or at least the stuff where you can improve.
Yeah. So does tarot intertwine with astrology, or is that one and the same, or are those two different things?
They've kind of melded together. They kind of melted together like over the years. Like there is a astrology. How do you call it? Yeah, like divination through astrology. There is that, and then there's tarot. Tarot's more from the kind of like the internal working from source, and then astrology kind of came in and just kind of went hand in hand. Actually, it's the universe, it's your source. They're pretty much coming from the same arena. So it kind of went hand in hand. We're like, okay, when you have this kind of energy, for instance, like you have like if I wanted to explain like a Taurus, like I am, oh, we're very, they say we're stubborn, we're lazy. And I'm like, yeah, that could be true. Like when it comes to tarot cards, one of our cards is like the Hierophant. The
Yeah.
Hierophant is somebody who's known to kind of, they know the rules, they know how everything goes. They can get into stubborn cycles like, well, I don't know, that doesn't sound right. I kind of know what I know, and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas you kind of have to sometimes open up, and yeah, we can, but it takes a while for us to open up because we're so ritualistic, and we're
Right.
so like Taurus is a earth energy, and that's
Yeah,
the
I'm
Hierophant, yeah.
I'm Aquarius, so we're survivors. I kind of describe myself like a cockroach because you can stomp on them and they still live. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
Oh
what I
yeah,
am. I'm a
I know.
survivor.
I know you Aquariuses. Well, no, I'm kidding. No, I do have a lot of friends, and I think what it is like because we're all fixed signs. We tend to get on each other's nerves because we're so like, I know what I know, you know what you know, and we're all trying to basically put it out there that we all know something, but we like, who's gonna win? Who's gonna have it out
Right.
there? That's why I think we're always kind of like butting heads, but we understand where each other is coming from because we all
So
want to be right.
yeah.
So the astrological sign, if you're doing a reading and you pull a specific card,
Mhm.
and somebody is, for example, Aquarius, and then you do another reading 2 days later, and you pull the same card for someone who's like, name one, Capricorn or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they have two different meanings, or is it still the same meaning for those different people, or is it adjusted based on their kind of
Yeah.
astrological signs?
It tends to be more of the energy that they're in. So yeah,
Okay.
you could be a Capricorn, you could be Aquarius, and you can get a Hierophant. And that's just kind of say, okay, well, sounds like you're very kind of stuck in a particular mentality. You're maybe not listening to reason. Whatever. I'm just kind of pulling things out.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just telling you to be more open. Like, yes,
Gotcha.
you do know what you do know your things, but you know what, you might have to open up a little bit more to maybe receive more downloads and more messages. So that could be just an example, but yeah, it doesn't really have to be particular to your sun sign or your rising sign or your moon sign, because you have a big three and then you have a whole list of um planets and things that you are. There's a
Yeah.
whole like slew of ingredients that you are. So it's just that we just happen to be like, I was born in the sun sign Taurus, she was born in the sun sign Aquarius. It's
Mm.
just like, okay, those are just the big three, but there's a whole other list of planets
Hmm.
and signs that we're connected to, the ingredients that make up all of us. Like we like to say,
Right.
oh yeah, I'm a Taurus and that's it. Like, no, you're not. I'm not just a Taurus. I'm also Sagittarius rising. Sagittarius rising, very different energies. Taurus
Yeah.
is all about being loyal and structured, and Sagittarius is about bouncing off the walls and having many partners and stuff like that. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like a dichotomy, and even um in my big three. So it's like, okay. So I can't really when you get a tarot card, that kind of helps you understand what kind of energy is leading in your energy. So if I were to get the star, which is Aquarius, then that just means like, hey, you know what, you're overcoming a lot. Speaking of, like, the cockroach, like, you're overcoming adversity, you're overcoming so
Right.
much. So keep going, keep filling your because it's usually a person filling up a pond with two with for the pitchers. There you go. So it's just kind of keep adding to your pond because you're gonna get out of whatever it is.
Right.
So
Right.
and I don't, as far as I know, I don't have any Aquarius in my top signs. So, well, okay, that's great. I'm gonna overcome a lot because as a Taurus sun, and I have a Virgo moon, those are two earth signs, those can be very attached to the ground and very stuck in their ways, and I'm glad that I can at least know that I'm going to get out of this if I continue working on myself.
Right.
Because
Right.
like, yeah, and the tarot, yeah, like I don't know if we're going to touch on this question, but like, the tarot is um the question like, what's happening in the energy that you're doing right now. So
Mhm.
whatever's happening right now, this is what's going to happen if you continue with that energy. So that's kind of
Okay.
the fortune telling part of it. Just like, what is this going to do while you're in that energy? I mean, you could do something totally different the next day and it's going to totally transform your energy.
Yeah, that's funny because I was going to ask you, like, a reading one day versus you did a reading on the same person a week later. Is it going to be similar, the same, or could it be completely different?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody hasn't worked on themselves, like you still have that devil card there, then it's possible that you can get the same cards over and over again. And it happens. I mean, I don't know how many people I've read for where they have similar messages. And it's because we're like kind of stuck in old ways. And I'm like, well, if you do this and that and the other thing to try and get out of that, it's definitely going to change your energy. But if you maintain that, kind of stay in that one spot, don't be surprised if the cards come out, with the same message over and over again. Like we
Mhm.
can only, actually it's funny because the universe does gives us moments where we can transform ourselves. Like, that's why you hear about Mercury retrograde and stuff like that. And that's all about us going back to old things to fix so that we can go into new things,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, the universe doesn't like to give us anything in a crowded house. They're like, hey, you know what, you got to clean a lot of that out so we can give you more, so
Right.
um
I see this more not as like, the way you read it in the Bible or however people that don't believe it. To me, I see this as more, it's you're kind of telling people kind of what type of person they are, and you're grounded to the earth, or you're grounded to people, or you're grounded to animals, or, just like empaths, there's all kinds of empaths, and you're either an empathic to the environment, nature, you're an empath to people. I mean, I kind of see this more as kind of a tool to help people discover who they are and where they need to go.
yeah.
For skeptics out there, well, I don't want to call them skeptics, but for people that are like diehard in, the Bible says not to do this stuff. I, the the argument I would play to that is, from what I'm hearing you're saying, is the readings that you're doing is you're reading the energy of the person, where they're at in their current situation, and giving them some advice or tools on how to change some things for the better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yes.
that kind of what you're
Yes.
doing?
So me, it's so funny because growing up, even before doing all the tarot, doing all that stuff, people would actually come to me for like advice too. Like I was like, what? Like, I don't know why people are so like always like coming to me, like I guess, as a Taurus, as a mother sign, that's somebody like, hey mom, what do I do with this? I don't know what to do. They always saw me as like some kind of the most grounded person, even though I wasn't. They're like, wow, what do you do? So I feel like I use this as a tool to like tap into what this person's going through. I'm like, okay, I see what you're going through. Cause like maybe they don't have the words to express that to me. They don't, like, I don't know, like I feel like something's going on, but like they don't want to say it out loud because then that would make it more, that would make it true. That would make it more like, okay, that is the problem then. Like I'm not crazy,
And
so
I think it's more of I think people are more visual because I get the same thing. People came to me forever for advice, and I'm like, I don't know why you're asking me. I'm the most broken person, but I think for me, I could talk all day long, and it's exhausting. But people are very visual, so when you have something to show them, they're
Mhm.
able to grab onto it a little bit easier, I guess,
yeah,
as
so
opposed to you just, well, this is what I think today.
yeah, and it's also like almost like a third party kind of saying like, come in, like, okay, let's talk about this, let's see what's going on. Oh, look, looks like you're kind of holding yourself back here, but so we could be like, okay, so let's go ahead and tap into that. Let's see, like what do you feel is holding you back? Like what can we, so it's almost like a one-on-one, like where we start talking, and then we kind of pinpoint the moment where they're like, oh shoot, that was what and I'm doing
Yeah.
this, I continue to do this, and I don't know what. Okay, so let's kind of pull some more cards and let's go ahead and see, let's go and verify all this information. Let's make sure we can send you in the right direction. So sometimes it'll give me more insight as to what to do. And then sometimes I'll just kind of grab it from source, from my intuition, be like, okay, you know what? If you're feeling stuck, let's start doing this. Let's start doing this more. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And, so it just kind of like, it's almost like, okay, now we got a team on this. Now we got a team
Right.
working for this person. Like, okay, like where can, I can try to give you the best advice I can give you from spirit, for myself, um, and the universe. And then we'll see what, the tarot cards pretty much lined it up. I'm like, I'm not pulling this out of my butt and trying to say like,
Yeah.
look, I think this is what's wrong with you. Like, no, look
Right.
here. They're like, this is what the cards say. I'm like, I'm not even trying to like, influence whatever this is. This is what the cards say. This is what the problem is. Now let's talk about why this problem exists and how we can fix it.
Right.
So that's what I try to do.
And I feel like that picture, just seeing a picture, they could relate to what's on the
Yeah.
picture, because you could see something and go, I feel just like that picture looks.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's easier to, to get through
Yeah,
that whole
exactly.
conversation.
You have a devil card, or you have like the heart with the three of swords kind of stuck into it. You're like, well,
Yeah.
like you're feeling
Yeah.
heartbroken. I'm like, I can tell you what, look, yeah, I mean, it's, you're not just imagining it. It is
Right.
happening to you. I'm
Right.
sorry, you were gonna say.
Is there certain cards that that you are like your favorites, or certain things that, everyone's got favorites in what they do. Is there
Mhm.
cards that you like the best? And
Hmm. I as a Taurus, one of my other cards is actually the Empress card. I share that with Libra, and that is a card of basically great strength. It's the mother card. It's like usually in most decks you have an Empress where she's standing or she's sitting tall on her throne, and she's pregnant, and she's like, yeah, I'm here to like basically give birth to new things, to new ideas, to be creative, to be the mother to the people who are motherless, like, so I feel like, I have taken on a lot of that energy of being a tarot reader, because the way my life had kind of panned out, I was like, wow, like why, how come it's so easy for other people, and then like
Mhm.
for me, I was like, how come I'm going through all these things? So I think there was a reason why I was going through a lot of the things that I had gone through, because well, you need to go through those kind of things, because you're gonna eventually encounter people that are gonna have the same problems, and there's
Mhm.
gonna be a point where we're all gonna have to actually start vibrating higher, start ascending spiritually, and
Right.
you're going to be one of the people that are going to help them go get up there too. So it's like,
Right.
oh, okay, well, all right, fine. Like, all right, I'll be the person that'll help everybody out, because that's what I do. That's kind of always how I've been growing up, where I try to help people as much as I can, and I
Mhm.
try to be there for people, and and at some point it kind of shot me in the foot, but like it shot myself in the foot, but you know what, I learned how to develop boundaries for that. So
Right.
I really kind of resonate with that Empress energy, because like I feel like, yeah, that's me. Like I can sit tall on my throne now.
Right.
10 years ago, no, but now I can definitely be that person that somebody could come to if they need some kind of spiritual guidance.
So, what advice would you give to people wanting to get into tarot?
So definitely be open, learn to trust yourself a lot, because that's where my hangup was. Like I didn't think that I could trust my intuition. I was like, oh, everybody knew better than me. So I had to actually put that down. And that's what helped me, because as I was reading for other people, I don't know what's going on in their lives. I'm like, don't
Right.
tell me anything. I just want to pull cards, and I want to see if this is going on in your life. Like I've heard some tarot readers telling people, oh, you know what, I can't read for you yet. I have to get to know you and stuff. I'm like, that's bull. I'm like, just like, let me just read your cards,
Mhm.
Mhm.
let me see what spirit has to say. And yeah, and it's come out, accurate for a lot of
Right.
people that I've read for. And that actually kind of really helped my confidence,
Right.
because I wasn't like, there was a point where I wasn't that confident a person. I seemed that way, but I wasn't really confident. And then this kind of like basically solidified my confidence. Like, oh, I can do this. I
Right.
can trust myself. I can be somebody that can give good advice,
Right.
with the help of spirit too. And like it was just one of those things where it just kind of helped me find my place in society, in
Right.
this world. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't, even though I had gone through so many things and so much heartache, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like it's
Yeah.
something that I needed to go through so I can learn. And I think that, oh, well, funny story. I was at an event where OC Paracon actually, where we had some psychics there, and one of them came up to me. She's like, "Hey, you know what? There's this man around you," and I was like, after going through some of the questions, like it turned out to be my grandfather that was there, and he's
Wow.
like, "Hey, you know what?" He says, "Keep going, keep doing what you're doing, because my grandpa would have been so into paranormal." Like if
Yeah.
if he was still alive, he was so into paranormal. He was very into like the whole even witchcraft thing. I think he didn't say it out loud, but I think that was something he was into.
Right.
And I think he was just being very supportive, talking about ancestors, all the people that want to help
Mhm.
you. He came in and was like, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I think
It's the right way.
it's kind of funny when you have some family members that make it very clear, or friends, or whatever the case may be, that are absolutely not into what you're doing. Like my best friends think my best friend, he's a pain in my butt, but he's my best friend. I love him, but he's adamant that we're just talking to demons all the time. So, but I love him. He's my best friend. But
Yeah.
and it's funny, the family members that will come out of the woodwork that will say, "Yeah, I've seen ghosts," or "Yeah, I used to do that." It's kind of funny. It's like I would have never known. I
Oh, I
would have
had
never
no
guessed.
idea. We started getting into this, and I had no idea that my dad had paranormal experiences and seeing spirits and seeing apparitions in his house and
Yeah.
Hmm.
talking to them. I was shocked when he told me
Yeah.
that, because it's not the kind of person I thought would have been into any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And for that to say that, it's like I didn't think I would either
Yeah.
until I had some personal experiences. And
Hmm.
now I am like, I don't want to say obsessed, but obsessed with this whole pursuing the spiritual awakening. I want to learn as much as
Mhm.
I can,
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
know?
Especially as like emergency personnel. Like, I mean, you're there sometimes when people's lives are beginning or where they're ending,
Yeah.
and there's like it's like almost like you're at the veil, like
Yeah.
so
Oh,
many
yeah.
times in your life, you know. So it's only natural that that you're interested in, the supernatural, in the paranormal, because that's basic. Oh, that's like where you live. You're
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
that. You're in that energy like constantly, and I would imagine that you have your ancestors, relatives, spirit guides around you, because they're if you're doing something dangerous or you're doing something that really takes a lot of your energy, they're going to be around you to make sure that you guys are okay. Because
Right.
while you're
Yeah.
making sure everybody else is okay, they're making sure you're okay.
Yeah, and I guess my advice to anybody, and this would go with anything in your life, is be cautious of who you learn from. You have to be very aware of who if you're going to people to learn to do this, to be cautious, be
Mhm.
Yeah.
picky.
Did you have any like mentors or anybody that helped you teach this, or did you just figure it out on your own?
Um, a little bit of both. Like, I got interested in it with when it came to astrology first, because I would read my, kind of go to the newspaper, read my zodiac, and then slowly I started getting into tarot, kind of watching that, and like, oh, this is interesting. And then as I was kind of getting into it myself and doing a lot of the of memorization of the cards and what they actually mean, and then the meaning that my intuition would give them, I was like, you know what, I need to actually probably look into like some kind of class to make sure that I know exactly what I'm getting into here, and
Right.
what they know, what the cards mean. So I did take a class with Mystic Dylan. He's a witch that he gives classes still today, but he does a lot of the witchcraft and a lot of tarot classes. And taking his class, it was actually very fun, very informative. So um yeah, I would say that I would kind of look up to somebody like him for a lot of tarot support, and kind of like, what's this meaning? Like, I'll still look at his tarot pulls and stuff like that. So like, I feel like I'm always learning. I'm still learning. And I would kind of go to a lot of people that I kind of found randomly, and look at their tarot reads and be like, oh yeah, I feel that too. Or yeah, you know what, that, because for me, like, sometimes I'm the worst person to read for me personally. Like, I cannot read for myself, because I always want to, like, oh, but maybe, then like, and that's when the intuition kind of goes off the rails. We're like, oh God,
Yeah.
but maybe they do like me. No, but so yeah, there could be like five different, you know, explanations for the cards that I get. So I'm like, I don't like to do it like for
Yeah.
myself. So I try to bring
Yeah,
somebody
that
else
makes
in to
sense
do that.
because,
Yeah.
as like responders, we respond to other people's emergencies and we help them and we're really good at it, but then when your family members get hurt, sometimes you like second guess yourself.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for over 20 years and I had to call her the other day when John got hurt, because it's like, I need your second opinion. It's like, she's like, you bonehead, you know what you're doing. But sometimes when it becomes personal,
Hmm.
that your training and all of your stuff can be clouded. So I definitely
Hmm.
understand that point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Especially something like that. That I would, as a, I would go out of my mind. Like, I'd be like, oh God, what's the number for 911? I can't,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, like, I know I've
How
done that a couple times, but luckily I've been able to get people through their things. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, definitely, and that kind of answers the question as to why people who do tarot or psychic can't really win the lottery, because like, then you start second guessing yourself. You're
Yeah.
like, oh shoot, like, I think the numbers are like 3, 7, 17. I don't know, maybe, or maybe
Yeah.
they were like 5, because I think 5 popped into my head, but then it went away.
Yeah.
So the reason why some people who are psychic are not millionaires already, it's pretty much why. It's
Yeah.
because like, I think when it comes down to that personal, like, oh, this is going to help me out.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like, I can't, I don't know if those are the actual numbers, or
I
I'm
feel
just
like
getting it from somebody else. Like, I don't know.
the universe has given certain people gifts to help, not necessarily for
Hmm.
self, yourself. It's for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So it kind
yeah,
of
and
limits you.
totally. I totally figured, like, I figured it out where I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what? It works. I'm fine with, like, I don't have to be a millionaire that way. Like, I could,
Yeah.
but, and actually, tarot would teach you that, it's actually better to kind of work hard for your millions if
Yeah.
you don't want to become a millionaire, because, usually people who are instant winners like that don't know how to handle that kind of money. And then they end up, like, blowing it all
And
on
then well for him.
BS, so it's better to kind of like know how the hard work that goes into it. So you're more
Yeah.
appreciative of it.
How often do you do readings for people?
Oh,
Like, do you
geez.
do them every day? Is it like, what do you
Um,
do?
so, on a good week, yeah, every day. I tend to do them mainly, on Wednesdays. I have this, club that I go to called, Wednesday's Party, and it's a, 21 over club, and they actually, invited me to do tarot there. So I do tarot from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Um, and then I go home, take a nap, and then I go back to my other work. you know. So, but it's something when it's something you love, hey, I'll do it. But I usually do tarot there, and then at markets. Sometimes I'm at markets on the weekends, and I usually post about those when I'm there. But I'll definitely do remote readings. So, we don't have to be face to face. I know a lot of people think that you have to be face to face when you're doing tarot readings. Not necessarily. I'm just connecting to your energy. It's just kind
Hmm.
of like this. We're talking to each other, but we're not in the same room.
Yeah.
Same thing with tarot. It works just like technology. Anything from kind of like spirit. Like, we can send out our energy to 5 different people. Like you're sending out emails to 5 different people,
Hmm.
and you and I, we're talking right now, and I can actually do the same thing with tarot readings. So,
Well, with that said, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there any way you could kind of give us some insight on our energies and what the universe is
ooh,
telling us right now?
well, I sure can. All right. So hopefully my camera doesn't move that much. So who wants to go first?
Him.
Oh, I guess I'm going first.
Okay, let's see. All right. So let's go ahead and get into your energy. Let's go ahead and see what spirit has to tell you for your greater good, for your personal growth, for any information, confirmations you may need, want, anything that you need to know, what spirit needs to tell you. I can go ahead and pull 3 cards unless you have like a particular question.
No, I
Okay.
don't have any specifics.
Okay. So let's go ahead and see what cards spirit has. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get 2 more cards. So you had one that just popped up, so that's interesting. So I can start on this one. The King of Coins is in reverse. So I feel like maybe there's a little bit of instability that you feel. With the King of Coins, it's like usually a very grounded energy. But actually, what I like about this being in reverse, sometimes it's kind of nice when it is in reverse, because that means that you have the energy to go do something. You have that drive to go do something. Because when you have the King of Coins in upright, sometimes it's a really grounded energy, so grounded that you're not making any moves. You're like, well, I'm happy right here. Thanks, bye. But like when it's in reverse, I like that it kind of helps show that you have some kind of drive to go and do what you're going to do. So, actually that not being so grounded actually kind of works in your favor, because I feel like maybe this is kind of helping give you the drive to do something. So let's go ahead and pull some more cards here. And you have the Chariot. Okay, yeah, so pretty much this is more talking about that you are coming, you're gonna start something new, some kind of new, something you're driving towards, because you got the Chariot card, and that's like fast information. It's fast movement towards something. And with the King of Coins, I like that in reverse, because that means that you're not going to let obstacles get in your way. You're gonna be grounded enough where you can cross your T's, dot your I's, and do whatever you need to, but you're gonna be able to move when you need to. You won't stay still. It won't be like, okay, I have everything I need and that's it, I'm done. You're going to actually be able to move. So let me just get one more card. Okay. All right. So we have the 9 of Wands here in reverse. So I feel like there's probably been a lot of instances where you've kind of been put through the ringer, where you've been, you've kind of, your drive kind of goes down, your hopes kind of go down, because maybe some things don't happen in a certain way, or they don't happen fast enough. But with this in reverse, I feel like you're kind of put that aside, and you're like, you know what? No, like, I'm not going to like feel sorry for myself. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going, pushing through to what my goals are. Because I feel like they're really good goals, and I feel like I need to put them out there so that I can get big and better things. Because you have at the bottom of the card, you have the Magician, and the Magician is the card that is basically alchemizing everything. You know what? Something bad happens. You know what? I'm going to transform it. I'm going to make it good. I'm going to go ahead and be grounded, but I'm not going to be so grounded where I don't do anything. I'm going to be grounded enough so that I can make decisions, like calculated decisions for whatever project I'm into, for whatever, messages I deliver to people. And yeah, I'm not gonna, not gonna let any setbacks, basically keep me from doing anything that I'm going to do. I'm gonna go ahead and work towards filling my cup, towards getting my coin, my monetary, towards my truth, and action towards the things that I want. So I really like that for you. It's all about, and then at the bottom of the Magician, 5 of Wands, it's almost like some people would say it's like an Indiana Jones card where you're just going to go for it. Like, all right, let's let that, let the boulder come on behind me. That's okay. I'm going to dodge it. I'm going to get to where I need to go. So that's actually really nice. Let me go ahead and show you these cards. So this is the King of Coins in reverse. You have the Chariot. And then you have the Knight of Wands in reverse. So yeah, that's where I feel like, you're not letting anything hold you back. Like, there may have been setbacks, but you know what? That's not even important right now. You're going to get to the goal that you're going to go ahead and try to accomplish.
That's awesome.
So did you have any questions, or does that resonate with you? See,
No,
I told you I could talk
it
a lot.
does. It does. It really does. So that's great.
Oh, awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, Brenda.
There we go.
Let's see. All right, so let me go ahead and get your energy in these cards, and let's go ahead and ask Spirit to give us some messages that you need to hear for your greater good, for your personal growth, for any information, confirmation you may need, want. Okay. So let's go ahead and see. You both had like one card that just jumped out right away. So that's good. Okay. So 2 more cards. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah. So, okay, let's see. Well, we have a friend here that was coming to visit. Okay, so let me just start off with these 2 that I have here. We have the 8 of Cups in reverse, and we have the Devil in reverse. So the Devil's making an appearance here. So, it's interesting because the 8 of Cups is actually, it's actually the energy of walking away, but it's in reverse. So I feel like maybe, actually there's an extra card here. So let's pull that one too. Okay. So we have the 8 of Cups here, and usually the 8 of Cups is about moving towards something new, moving towards something that's better. I feel like maybe you're coming out of an energy where you let something kind of like, maybe you got hung up on something, or something just was not good for you. And I think you're ultimately going to make a decision to move away from something. The 8 of Cups is in reverse, but it's still on the table. So I feel like maybe this is either something that you're going to do, or maybe you just barely made the decision to walk away from something that no longer serves you. We also have the Hanged Man in reverse, and we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. So I feel like whatever this is, whatever this toxicity that you had, maybe it's something that you never saw before, but now you're kind of opening your eyes to what it was, or to actually what the information that you have now. You're like, wow, I just never saw that. Maybe I, had eyes of love, as they say, and just like that, something just was not like, I did not want to see the truth in what something was. Maybe it was hurting me in some way. Maybe it was, trying to get into my energy in some kind of weird way, bogging me down. I just never realized it. And we have the Ace of Cups here in reverse. So I feel like this is something, I think once you kind of let go of this, it's going to fill your cup again. You're going to feel emotionally stable again. You're going to feel emotionally happy again, because I think whatever this is really bogging you down, where it just brings your spirit really down. And actually that's great, for you to recognize that something was not for you. It's huge, because, some things are just like, they could be family members, they could be friends. And, sometimes it's like, and if somebody's not good for you, and they don't raise your vibration, or they're just not a good person, sometimes we just can't help it. We have to let them go, because they're just basically killing our energy,
Right.
like feeding off of us, so that they could feel happy, or they could do something. So I feel like, and then we have the 8 of Swords in reverse at the bottom, which is great, because basically that's like getting out of your head.
Okay.
That's getting out of that jail actually, this is a pretty card. And this is what it looks like in the upright. It's a little black widow surrounded by swords, and now it's in reverse here. So that's somebody that's letting go of a lot of those like thoughts and that were keeping you in your own personal jail, and just finally accepting the truth of something.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. That was very cool. Yeah, I can resonate with that.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. If do you guys have any questions on this? Like, I could totally.
Not really.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. The problem is, I'll probably think of the question at 2:00 in the morning because it'll just pop
that's
into my
fine.
head.
Just message me and I'll answer. Yeah. No, that's totally, because sometimes, like, I talk so much when I do that, and then I said, "You guys have any questions?" They're like, "No, not really."
Yeah, those are good readings. I mean, yeah, it does resonate. So I think that's cool.
Awesome.
But I do think we're getting to the end of our time here. So is there anything else that you would like to share with people about what you do, how they can find you? Anything?
So like I was saying, I'm on Wednesday nights. I'm at Wednesday's party from 10 to 2 a.m. So if you're in the Hollywood area, feel free to stop by, dance, come get a reading from me. That's great. And I'm at marketplaces, at witchy marketplaces. So sometimes I have to actually find out if I'm going to be part of those. So I'll post those as they come. And yeah, like, I think that's it for the most part. Oh, actually, yes. This month, I forgot what month we're already in. So I'm going to actually be part of a vampire ball at the end of this month, or the Valentine's weekend. I think that's like 16th, 17th. Yeah. So I'll be at a vampire ball if you're here in the LA area. So I'll be part of that. And maybe a couple other things that I'm kind of like, let me see if I can be part of those. So yeah. So right now you just like kind of have to keep on my social media, and I will post things as I'm going to be on there, because like again, I'm a Taurus and I get sidetracked and so it's just like, but yeah, as of right now, I have my residency at the club, and then I have the event at the vampire ball at the end of this month, and I think I'm going to have some more events coming up in March and April, so stay tuned for those.
Okay, they can also find you on Instagram.
Yeah, at Scary Siren, and no spaces, no numbers. I'm one of the older crowd in Instagram, so I didn't have to put any like spaces or numbers or anything like that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice. That's always good. Well, you know what? Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate your time, and I think that was very informative, and I learned a lot.
Yes,
thank you.
That
for
was
having
great.
Me.
Thanks.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. Like, I'm glad somebody wants to like hear my babble. Like, I love it. Like, this is like my first one, like really kind of doing this, and like I've been on Friends, but this is like a serious professional one. Like, I've never been on something like this before, so I'm excited.
Well, you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
This was good.
All right. Well,
awesome.
Thank you so much, and
thank you very much.
We'll see you again.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Paranormal Triage here. I'm Brenda.
And I'm Ryan.
And we just want to give a shout out to Paranormal 24/7 for allowing us to stream on their platform. And I hope you guys are all enjoying our podcast so far and our investigations. Paranormal 24/7 has some great swag.
Awesome merchandise.
Cups, coffee mugs. And if you are interested in putting your show or stream it on Paranormal 24/7, just go contact them. And we also have some cool ghosty swag.
Awesome stuff. Sweatshirts.
Long sleeve shirts. We have some hats.
Coffee mugs. So you can have Paranormal Triage coffee mug, and then you want to like mix it up the next day and have some coffee out of the 24/7, one for each day of the week.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, help support our platforms, our podcast and all that. Your donations and your subscriptions help us stay alive. And and you get to just wear some cool stuff. You can find all our merchandise and all our social media at www.paranormaltriage.com. And you can find Paranormal 24/7 not only on Instagram,
but also every platform that you can get an app on. You can subscribe to them, and they've got all sorts of content on there that's all paranormal related. Cool stuff.
Yeah. So go check our website, get some cool shirts, get a hold of Paranormal 24/7, get some cool coffee cups, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
All right.
Toodles.